All right. Well, welcome to our Wednesday night Zoominar, where we're going to zoom in and learn on how to work our Ambit business. For those of you who are on here for the very first time, welcome. Christine and I have been doing these Zooms for a few months now, and we started back in early summer. Whenever we knew we were going to be moving, we knew we were heading down to Florida, and we wanted to create a way to stay in touch with our team. And we feel that training in a business like this is extremely important. Number one. Number two, we feel that being connected is just as important, because a lot of times when you start in a business like this, you really don't know what's going on out there in the world, and these things kind of bring us all together in one room. A lot of times you think you're out there on your own, and your struggle is your own struggle, and your success is your own success. In reality, you're a part of a big team. And that's why we pull you guys together here. And this platform is great because, obviously we got Rob Malone who's out driving in a car, and you got somebody in Turks and Caicos, and people in Pittsburgh, and I'm in Tampa, Florida, and we're all together in this one room. And it's kind of like the big Ambit family. So I'm really excited about our guest tonight, and I can't wait for him to get on and tell his story. But before he gets on, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I know about him. First of all, in Ambit, he is executive consultant. He was a fast track senior consultant. He's actually won a 5-star trip, which is something that I've never done. So kudos to him for that, him and his wife. He was also a Pure Energy Award winner, featured on several magazines. In fact, the latest Success from Home magazine that just came out, here he is. Those words are probably backwards, but there he is. That's Carter Mook and his wife Josie and their daughter Doreen, who's probably going to be in the Olympics one day as a professional skater. And so he's really tearing it up in Ambit. And what I love about him is he's consistent and he's persistent, and he's really focused on growing his Ambit business. And in that book, it talks a lot about him coming out of his comfort zone, and really, doing things that were uncomfortable for him to be a success in Ambit. Now, I actually intentionally left a blank page. It's backwards, but it says this page is intentionally left blank because I'm going to fill it up with notes tonight for Carter Mook. So I'm going to unmute you, Carter, and get you up here on the big screen. So, Carter, there you are, buddy.
Thanks for having me on, Mark.
Good to have you. Well, take it away.
All right. I think the best way to connect with people is by telling your story. If you can make a connection with somebody heart to heart, and they know that you're real, I think that goes miles in your business. And not only in terms of sponsoring people, but also in terms of training people. So if you don't mind, Mark, I'm going to dig right into my personal story here tonight. And hopefully the people that are on here, they're taking a look at Ambit for the first time, or maybe have just gotten started in their business, or even have been in the business for a while, they all can draw a correlation to what we've gone through and benefit from it. So some of you know my background, some of you don't, but I've been a police officer for 23 years here in northwestern Pennsylvania. And for many years, my wife and I had a really comfortable life. She was working full-time as an administrator for a judge, and I had been fortunate enough to have been promoted at work a few times, and we were both making a good living, and we were taking big vacations every year, sometimes twice a year, and I'd gotten into racing cars, and that's no cheap date. Some nights I would have been better off taking a pile of money and setting it on fire, because it would have been less painful than wrecking the race car. But it was fun, and we were doing that for a number of years. And then our daughter was born, and my wife had the dream of being a stay-at-home mom, and her mom had been a stay-at-home mom, and that was important to her. And she wanted to walk away from her job. I didn't think that was a good idea, but I let her do it anyway, because she told me that's what she was going to do, whether I gave my permission or not. So Um, right away, we felt a pinch financially. I knew it was going to be hard, but I didn't realize that it was going to be as hard as it was. And I had to pick up all the extra shifts that came my way at work, and was trading away a ton of my time just to tread water financially. My work weeks were anywhere from 60 to 80 hours. And I thought, if I finally work a few extra shifts this month, we'll start to peek ahead a little bit financially. It would never work out because life would happen. I had to put tires on the truck, brakes on the car. Christmas would come. I began to hate Christmas because of all the cost involved. And I know there's people on here that probably feel the same way, and it's very unfortunate. But that was life for us. We struggled for 3 or 4 years doing that, and eventually we had to throw in the towel. Josie went back to work in the court, working 20 hours a week to help out financially. And even so, the 20 hours a week wasn't enough. We were still struggling, and I would work, heck, 3 double shifts in a row, and I'd be just so exhausted, and I got to be just a grumpy person, and I started not to like who I was because I was always irritated and tired. And a friend of mine just at the right time asked us to take a look at Ambit Energy, and it's funny how he invited me to take a look. He said, come on over to the Quality Inn. I started a business, and I want you to see what we're doing. Leave your wallet at home. I just want you to come see what we're doing. And I did what I was told. I left my wallet at home, and I saw the presentation, and I was super excited. What I saw was my way out of the financial mess that I was in, and I was ready to get started. And unfortunately, I didn't have my wallet with me. So I had to call Josie at home to read off the credit card information. And funny thing happened. You know how wives can be, but she never asked why I needed the credit card information. She just read it off to me over the phone. So it wasn't until after I came home did I tell her that, hey, we had started a business here. So I'd never done anything like this before, never gotten involved into direct sales, but she had tried a couple different businesses that were product based, and couldn't make any money at it. They just weren't the right companies, and it was hard, she found, to try to get somebody to change their buying habits and buy something that they really probably didn't even need to begin with. So here I just saw a total 180 from what she had tried. We're not convincing anybody to do anything but save money on a bill they're going to pay anyway. So to me, it just made perfect sense. And I thought, this is going to be pretty easy. I don't need any help. I'm just going to go out and do it. And the first couple of people I thought of were my best friend since we were in kindergarten. And I talked to him and puked all over him about gas and electricity, etc. And he shied away from me right away. Didn't want to hear any more of what I had my hands on. And then so I turned to my sister because I knew that her husband was in sales and he was a pretty motivated guy. And I didn't get the reaction that I expected there either. My sister called me gullible and didn't want to have anything to do with taking a look at the business either. And that was a pivotal point that I think would take a lot of people out. To have a family member say you're gullible and think that you're involved in something that has no value, it certainly, it was a hard obstacle for us to get over. But I think that's where determination is a necessary element of building your business. Determination and persistence. And determination to me is a lot stronger of a word than motivation, because motivation is temporary, but determination is long-term. And that's what I dug down and found was determination. And those words that my sister said to me stick with me to today. I haven't forgotten them, and I've gone out determined to prove her wrong, and we've certainly done that. But I did learn real quick that you can't do this by yourself, that we do have a system that works that we need to follow. And I proved it right away that you can't fall into Death Valley where you're trying to explain the business to somebody in a conversation over the phone. It just does not work. We've proved it time and time again. And I finally, after Josie encouraged me, watched the training videos in Power Zone after I scuffled along for the first few weeks in the business and got nowhere, but frustrated. She said, you really need to take a look at these videos. And I did, and something started to click. And we had gathered some customers as a result, hit our Jumpstart bonus, and had sponsored one person. And we also started to accept the help of our upline leaders, most notably Jim and Kim Mason. They had been calling me since I enrolled in day one, and I saw this 716 area code phone number on my phone that I didn't recognize, and that honestly I didn't take their call. I didn't know who they were. My sponsor had just gotten started in the business, and he, as a result, he's a great guy, but just not a great sponsor to have because he didn't know what he was doing yet either. So when I accepted their help, our business really started to take off. I'm huge on having an in-home grand opening for your business because once we plugged into the system and started to do that, our business just skyrocketed. And I think we invited 6 or 8 people to come to our home to take a look at the business. Only 3 actually showed up, but all 3 became consultants. One of them that night and 2 later on. And I turned to my wife when we were done. I said, you know what? I'm committed to this. Let's do this again next week. And we did it the next week, and the numbers were bigger. And we said to the people that we had sponsored, hey, again, we're committed to this. Let's do this again next week. And we asked them, you can bring guests too, please do. And they did. And I remember that third home show we had, the first person decided to become a consultant, and it was like a bunch of dominoes fell. We had 3 or 4 people sign up that night. And after a span of doing that for 3 or 4 weeks, it was too big for our house. That's how quickly our business grew. And we had to go to a boardroom at the airport. And we still continued with the Thursday night presentations, and we were able to fast track to senior consultant that way. And I remember Kim telling me more than once to try to move Ambit from your head to your heart. And when she was saying those words to me, I just didn't understand the connection. I didn't understand the point that she was trying to make. But she highly encouraged me to go to Simulcast, which is our second biggest corporate event. And this is why events are so important. I went there to that event in Pittsburgh, and I saw a bunch of leaders get on stage and talk about their own personal stories and what Ambit had done for them financially. And I saw the hundreds of people in the room, and you just couldn't help but get super excited about the business, about what we have our hands on. So I can't recommend the corporate events enough. So we came home from that event, and we were senior consultants, and then we kind of hit the wall a little bit. We had sponsored a bunch of people into our senior organization, and nobody was doing anything. We just didn't find the leaders that we were looking for to help carry us on to our next promotion. And that first month or 2 that we were seniors, I had actually showed the plan one-on-one to a gentleman in our area. He's another police officer. And at the time when I was sitting down with him, he was kind of negative. And I was getting a hard read on his interest level in the business. And one of the things he asked me was, well, if this is so big, how much money are you making? And at that point, we were still just getting our business off the ground and wasn't really making the money that I thought would impress him. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, this is a waste of time. Why am I even here? And I left his house that day. We had planned to follow up with each other, and I did. I had followed up with him a couple of times, and he just, for whatever reason, wasn't ready to get started. And after that, I totally forgot about him, continued to sponsor people in the business, but we were still looking for a runner. And then out of the blue, it was about 4 months later, he called me up one day and said, "Hey, you still doing that energy thing?" I said, "Absolutely." And he said, "I think I want to do it." And Jeff had signed up and signed his girlfriend up that day as well. And they wanted to do an in-home presentation, a grand opening. And we had them plugged into that, and they fast-tracked to senior consultant and became one of the top recruiters in the state. So just again, another example of why the home shows can be so beneficial to you and your business, and also the importance of staying persistent and continuing to push forward. Because, I think we had sponsored 14 or 15 people at that point in our senior code, and we didn't have a whole lot to show for it. But because we kept pushing forward and kept engaged in the business, the right person that we were looking for came on board. And Jeff had only been in the business for maybe 4 to 6 weeks, and our biggest corporate event, Ambition, was coming up around the corner. And I knew that if I could get Jeff to that event, that his belief in the business would go through the roof. And he took a leap of faith and trusted in what I had to tell him, and he went to Ambition. And he came back from that event and sponsored more people into his business. And long story short is, all 5 seniors we needed to promote to executive consultant came out of the one conversation I had with Jeff. And most of the growth came after Ambition in the fall. We just rode the wave of momentum right to executive consultant. So I can't stress enough the importance of plugging into the events and staying connected to the business, because again, motivation is temporary, but if you can find a way to be determined to get what you're looking for in this business, you can find it. And the whole journey is really full of peaks and valleys. Try to don't ride the highs too high, and don't let the lows get you too low and let them take you out of the business. We've run into our bumps along the way, the whole way, really, even beyond my sister calling me gullible. My wife's father had a heart attack, and my dad had a heart attack 4 months later. But we didn't let that take us out of the game. Both of them survived, thankfully, but we continue to keep our faith in the business and keep pushing forward. So to help you through that, I would recommend that everybody find an accountability partner and a mentor in the business. As far as an accountability partner, try to find somebody that's on your level. Now, if you're new in the business, you're not going to reach up to a national consultant and ask them to be an accountability partner, because they're at a much different level in their business than you are. So try to find somebody that has the same goals as you and is at about the same level as you are, so you can touch base with each other every day, and you can hold each other accountable for what you're doing in your business every day. As far as a mentor, find somebody that you admire and that you have a connection with. And this actually probably should be more than one person. And it doesn't have to be somebody that is in your upline. Mark, you and I both, obviously, we have great mentors in Jim and Kim Mason, but I've also found a great mentor in Kirk Horan. We share a background in public safety. He's a former firefighter, so we got that connection. And I love to bounce ideas off him and listen to his ideas that I should do in my business moving forward. So if you can find people like that, that's huge for you. And a lot of those connections are made at our Ambition event or at the regional trainings that we have. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'd just like to add a couple things that came to mind here real quick. Ambit, for me, is more than the money, because of the personal development that we undergo in this business in order to build it. I'm a changed person. I used to be very introverted and shy, and my wife says some days she doesn't even recognize who I am, and she doesn't mean that in a bad way at all. She means that in a good way. And you know, instead of being a wallflower, I'm out there talking to people and meeting friends, and always looking for our next Mark and Christina Alfano to come into our business. And we've also seen the benefits of the business in our daughter. One, we've been able to pay for her ice skating without even thinking twice about it. I used to think racing cars was expensive, but that's nothing compared to ice skating. We've got costs of joining the club and paying for ice time and private coaching. And I wish her feet would stop growing because these skates aren't cheap either. But she's been like a sponge. She's around the trainings, and she's around our mentors, and here's what they have to say. And she said something to me just a couple of days ago that really struck me. She said, the person that you should be, the person that you should try to be better than is the person that you were yesterday. And that just had my jaw hit the floor. I said, wait a minute, where did you hear that? And she had read it in her skating magazine. But because we're so, we're always looking at personal development and making ourselves better, she was able to read that in the magazine and not only repeat it verbatim, but use it in the right context. And it really meant a lot to Josie and I's parents to see her thinking that way as a 9-year-old.
That's a game changer there. I mean, because, you think about it, our children are a message we send to a place and time that we'll never see. And so what you're putting into her is going to be a great message that you're sending off into the future. So you should be really proud of your daughter. You really should be. It's amazing what's going on with her. A couple things I want to ask you, Carter, is I want you to touch on two areas. The first one is you said when you got into this that you were busy. And so, you're working 80, 90 hours a week. And we have a lot of people who are on Zoom right now who are extremely busy. So how did you find time to add Ambit into your busy life?
I made time. Let's say I was working a 16-hour day. I found the time during my lunch break to make a couple of invitation phone calls in order to book an appointment for my next day off, or the next day that I was only working an 8-hour shift as opposed to 16. So I just fit it in when I could, because I knew that what I had my hands on was going to change my life and allow me to eventually walk away from all the overtime. Now, that didn't happen right away because the income is progressive. But once we decided that we were going to do this and put our full effort forward, we did make the dedication to have the in-home on Thursday evenings. It just worked well for our schedule.
So you're saying if somebody can actually just give up one day a week, that it could, change their financial picture in the long haul?
Absolutely. And, we know that the invitation should be brief, so you can easily fit in multiple invitations on your lunch break, when you drive to work or from work. There's ways to fit that in.
Yeah, it's interesting is that I believe that people are always looking for something. It's just we're afraid to, and a lot of times we're afraid to ask them, it's just our own personal fear. So kind of jumping into that, I heard a quote from Oscar Wilde who said, the thing you fear the most is probably the next thing you should be doing. And you talked a lot about being an introvert, and also in your story, you talked about, kind of coming out of your comfort zone. So walk us through that. When you were doing that, what was it like for you? What were some of the things that you did to stretch yourself in that way?
It was hard. You're right. As a shy person, but I knew that what Ambit could offer was the way out of the mess I was in. I'll get really personal with you here. My dad was a blue collar guy and worked a ton of hours when I was a kid. He actually took on a second job when I was in high school as a over-the-road truck driver, and he'd be gone for days at a time. And as a result, he never saw me play a basketball game in high school. And even when I was younger, he never saw me play a Little League baseball game, for example. He was never at a single one of my sporting events. And it wasn't because he didn't love me. He was just always working, literally always working. And don't get me wrong, there was a lot of love in my house. He always told me how proud he was of me. And nonetheless, there was that empty feeling that I had. And I knew that if I didn't take advantage of this, that history would repeat itself in my family. Because there were days where I would be gone the entire day. I wouldn't even be able to come home and eat lunch because we were so busy at work, and wouldn't see my daughter at all. And I didn't want her to grow up with the empty feelings that I had. I didn't want her to start getting into her sporting events and me not be there. So once I knew why I was doing the business, initially it was just the thought of, if I can get $300 to $500 a month out of this and step away from 1 or 2 shifts of overtime, then that's a good thing. But once Ambit moved into my heart and I knew how big this could be and what it could do for me and my family, that made the phone calls to ask somebody to take a look easier. And I didn't do the vision board thing when I got started, but that helps too, for sure. If you can put things on your vision board that are near to your heart that you want to accomplish with this business, do it. I remember trying to muster the courage to pick up the phone and make that hard phone call. And if I could look at that vision board when I was, holding the phone in my hand, I knew I could get through there, because we've had pictures of family vacations on the vision board and things of that sort, of us together as a family. That's what we wanted to do, was have that family time. So know your why. Know why you're doing the business, and make it more than something that's superficial. Dig deep so really, really know why you're doing this business.
Yeah, and I think what you hit tonight was a home run, because grit, drive, determination, the never quit. I always see you out on the road. We've done trainings together out near Washington, D.C. and Virginia and New York, and it's anywhere, Texas, And if we're there, I always see Carter there. So I know that you're like that now. You mentioned how your dad and yourself came from this blue collar background, and one thing I got right away with Ambit was that this is a business that appeals to the blue collar worker. And so take somebody who's doesn't really know that world, and give us some insight on how to approach somebody like yourself.
I think if you know a person's why, as you're inviting them to take a look, that speaks volumes. My sponsor tied my why into the invitation. He says, "Hey, Carter, I know how much you've been working. I found something that might be of interest to you." And what he didn't know was I was praying for something to come along. I was trying other things at the time to make extra money. We had gotten a rental, but that wasn't spinning off the cash flow that we needed to let me step away from the overtime, for example. If you know the person's why, it's huge.
And then the key word is that you were looking for it, So I think, once again, you're going right back into coming out of your comfort zone and asking the hard question that actually the person wants you to ask them. It's huge. That I think we really got to get back into that, is everybody deserves to hear about what we have. And I think there's a lot of times where we're holding back, I met a guy today who was, I was actually doing an Uber trip and down here in Florida. And I met a guy who he was in trucking school. He wants to be a long haul trucker. And I said, "Do you know anybody in Japan? And he's like, yeah, I grew up in Japan. My parents were in the military there. And he says, why? And I just started talking to him about Ambit. And he's like, what's the name of your company? I said, well, I can't tell you, but I'll send you some information. And so we've been going back and forth today, and the guy's stoked. And I could have easily said, oh, this guy's in Florida. He has no connections, and already kind of filled in the blank for him. But, you just got to step out. And even like, you were talking about, it was, you said Jeff that you showed the business to that kind of was negative at first. The fact that you didn't, the fortune is in the follow up, like Debbie Atkinson says, and so that follow up was key, because here's a guy that basically turned your life around, in your Ambit business,
Yep. What I didn't know at the time was he was getting out of a long-term relationship and trying to sell his house. So that was the roadblock that he had to getting his business started. But he told me that he was thinking about this ever since he had sat down with me, because he had respected me and thought that if I was involved in it, that it was a good thing. So don't burn bridges, I would say. If somebody tells you no, they don't want to join the business, it doesn't necessarily mean they don't ever want to join the business. The timing might not be right for them. So just ask them if it's okay to stay in touch with them and share your success as you move forward, and share your progression in the business. You never know when life is going to change for them, and they might have a need that they didn't have when you sat down with them initially.
That's right. So, question for you. There's a lot of people on this, whatever you call it, webinar, Zoominar, that are not executive consultants. Some of them are marketing consultants, brand new out of the gate. And, I was talking on the call Sunday and said, that the financial tide started to turn at senior. But as a senior consultant, you're trying to get yourself to executive. A lot of times people just think, man, it's impossible. What would you say is the key to get from, if you had to put it in a nutshell, to go from where you are to hit that executive level?
Just keep your determination and your persistence, because you're literally just one conversation away from having someone change your life. And Jeff proved it for us. He led to all 5 seniors, and we have more seniors than that now that came out of that one leg of sponsorship. But literally, one person can change your life. And my own personal sponsor is a good example of that. He's getting checks every month with a comma in them, and he sponsored me and I think his mother and maybe one other person, and gathered 20 meters to qualify for all the residual payout. But beyond that, he hasn't worked the business at all. And he found his person early in the game. Now, you may have to keep searching for a while, but I can promise you, everybody knows somebody that is going to change your life with this business.
Now, another question on the same topic is, out of your runners, how many of them were people you personally sponsored, and how many of them were people you never knew that came in through somebody?
Most were people that we didn't know. Out of the people that we personally sponsored, I would consider 2 of them to have been runners that were life-changing. But the other people, they were people that came in our business in depth. So, that person that's going to change your life may not be somebody you personally sponsor in the business. It may be someone that comes from someone else's circle of influence. But like when you throw a pebble into a pond and those ripples radiate out, somewhere as those ripples radiate out, they're going to touch somebody that's going to change your life.
Now, talk to people on here who are striving to get to where you're at, and give us a picture of your life now that you've accomplished. I mean, I know you're like myself, you're not where you want to be yet, but what's life like now as an executive consultant at Ambit Energy?
Life is fantastic. My wife was able to walk away from the 20 hours a week she picked up, and she's a full-time stay-at-home mom. She volunteers at the school and she also volunteers for another organization that helps rescue rabbits. She's a big animal lover, and that's near and dear to her heart. And I no longer have to work any overtime. So I'm no longer tired and stressed out and overworked and a bear to be around. Our marriage is better. I feel like I'm a better dad because of all the personal development with the business that's come our way. And just so blessed to have joined this company.
That's awesome. So two other things I want to touch on. Number one is you talked a lot about, ambition and how, these connections that you make at an event like that. So you're brand new, fresh out of the gate consultant, haven't made $1 in Ambit. Do you go to Ambition?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Not only are you going to learn from the best in the business, you're going to get a feel for the big picture, how big this can be. And you're also going to network with other consultants. That's how I met Kirk Horan, was at Ambition. We met each other, exchanged contact info, and developed a friendship from there. And his mentorship has meant a ton to me in this business.
I was actually going to ask you about that, and you touched on it. So the next big event coming up is in Dallas, and it's coming up in April. It's called Power Trip. Have you been to Power Trip?
Multiple times, yes.
Yeah. And so kind of give me a comparison and your perspective between a Power Trip and an Ambition, and why somebody should attend Power Trip as well.
Power Trip is just it's chock full of training, even more so than Ambition. I think the sole focus of Power Trip is the training, and there is some time for networking as well. But the training is top notch. You're talking about millionaires and multimillionaires in this business, and if you can soak up anything from them, then you've got to do that. It's huge for you and your business.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't remember who was on here a while back, but there was maybe Rob Malone had mentioned it, but he said that sometimes in an event like that you get more in the hallways and elevators than you do in some of the trainings, at Ambition, where it seems like Power Trip to me is like a power packed. It's like a blur. I remember my first one coming home, and Christina's like, "Tell me all about it," and I'm like, "I can't even think. Like, I'll talk to you in a week." I mean. I said, all I know is we ate a lot, and it seemed like we were running from one restaurant to the next.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
That's all we did was eat.
Yeah, it's like breakfast, lunch, and
But
dinner.
you can have some great one-on-one time with the leaders. Like I remember talking to Sean Cornett for quite a while about what are you doing? What's your secret? How are you building this business? And I was just a sponge soaking it all in.
What's funny is you mentioned him. I actually used Energy Gold Rush today. I don't know if you ever use Energy Gold Rush or not, but and I'm never here to endorse a product like that. But I was just thinking about him because there's so many different tools that we have at our disposal, and the only reason why I use the Gold Rush is because there's a guy I'm never going to see again. Wants some information, and I can send him a link, and I can keep it kind of tabs on what he's doing. And I like the fact that you get that push notification every time. So, I mean, I'm still getting them. They come over on my watch and it'll say, so-and-so has viewed the landing page and this page and that page. So with that being said, is there any go-to, things that you're using to go out and show your business?
I just rely on the corporate videos on the Team 5 or the Energy 526 site, to be honest with you. I have used Gold Rush, but it's been a long time. And I just like to keep it as duplicatable as I can. So I just rely on the corporate sites.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, they work, and now they have the video tracker on them too. So you can you can work that. What I'm gonna do next, Carter, is I'm gonna open it up here and see if anybody's got a question for you. So I gotta go to the gallery view. Got some upside down. Hey, there's Josh Allen. Let me get you on here, Josh. Josh, you might have to unmute yourself, buddy. There you go. Hold on a second, I can't hear you.
There you go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear
Hi,
you.
Josh.
Hello. I wanted to just iterate in. Actually, I got into business and then I didn't do anything for a while. And then I went to Ambition last year. That was the biggest thing that blew me up and actually got me fired up in the business. After that, I just been showing like crazy, and I, that's the only thing that really fired me up. I went to a meeting or two, the local meeting, but I didn't actually believe anything until I went down there and seen it in Texas. I was actually in the business. I made only $100 before I went to Ambition, and that that is, I tell everybody you have to go to that just because of the fact, like, I got to see and meet a lot of people, and we was talking about that a couple webinars ago, that I actually met more people in the lobby and everything like that and before trainings than the actual trainings and everything. That's what really fired me up is, like, some of the top income earners will stop in the lobby and they'll just hold a conversation with you like you're just anybody else. So I'm 100% all for Ambition and the trainings down there because they do fire you up. I just want to reiterate that.
Absolutely. And Power Trip too, right?
Yeah, I'm signed up for everything right now. I haven't purchased my Ambition ticket yet for this year, but I'm also working. I want a fishing trip with Brian McClure, a one-on-one. So we're working on planning that. So I don't know by the sounds of it, I'm going to make Power Trip this year. I'm trying to look and see, but I think I'm going to put my ticket up. But I'm already getting Ambition because I'll be there for that. I just I can't do both of them and get out of work for all that because I'm through Union Hall. I don't get vacation time. I don't work. I don't get paid.
You'll get a lot of benefit out of that fishing trip for sure with Brian.
That's what I'm hoping. That's what everybody keeps telling me.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
still available.
towards senior. I'm kind of his little stall here. I can't get anybody to join. I just keep
Well, you know what? I just want to touch in on that real quick, Carter, is that, Josh, you got a big why. Your big why is that your job's keeping you away from doing the things you want to do. And so just use that as your motivation, I mean, you got to make a goal and put it up in writing, like Carter said. And that this time next year, you can go to every event that Ambit has to offer and you'll have the money in the bank to do it. And you can tell your boss that you have an eye problem. And get out of that mess. All right, so who's next? Let me see here. Let's see some hands up. Hands up. I'm looking here. There we go. Mr. Caldwell, John Caldwell. Go ahead, John.
Hi, Carter. Welcome to tonight. I appreciate everything you've been talking about. I had a question for you. You said that when you started out, I know you showed the business a little bit one-on-one, but you pretty much went right into home showings. Is that right?
Yeah, that's where we saw our greatest growth because we could leverage our time better. We could get, we could spend the same amount of time as a one-on-one would take, but instead of showing it to one person, we could show it to half dozen people.
And if you could, just share with us what typically you might say as an invite to somebody for a home showing.
For a home show, it's been a long time since I personally invited somebody to one, but if I remember correctly, I had a level of excitement in my voice, and I said, "Hey, Jason, I know you've been working a lot of extra hours, just like me, and I found a way to get away from some of that. I'm excited about a business I got started, and we're gonna have an overview at the house at 7:30 on Thursday. I'd love to see you there."
Okay.
See, it goes back to knowing their why. I already knew that Jason was working 2 extra jobs plus overtime at his main job. So that's just one example that comes to mind.
Okay, thank you.
Another good one too, John, is that, when you have somebody that you're trying to invite, and sometimes we do them as a grand opening. And so you can say, you know, I just started something, or I'm having a grand opening, and I'd like you to come see what I do, so that you know how to best support me, you know. And like Carter said, I think the key is the person who invited him was like, no pressure, right? You know, leave your wallet at home, some light refreshments, goldfish and water. And as Brian McClure says, gotta have them goldfish. So I know some people get irritated with that, because I got some Italians in my group that like to do like homemade sausages and stuff. So, all right, let's see who is next. Let me look here. Rob. All right, let's get Rob unmuted here. All right, go ahead, Rob.
Hello, Carter. Thank you for coming on.
Hi,
You're
Rob.
one of my favorite ECs, just because you're so approachable and so nice. But my question is, do you now, and did you all along the road to executive, lead with inviting people to weekly business presentations? And the reason I ask that is it seems that a lot of the people that are executives and nationals that I've asked that, they say they try and go to the one-on-one first, and the meetings are a second look. Do you find it a little more clunky to get somebody to a weekly business presentation as opposed to asking them to do a one-on-one or a home show?
Yeah, for sure. You know, when we got started, there were people in our hot market that we could invite that way and get them to a business presentation at the hotel. But, you know, if somebody's not in your hot market, they don't have that level of connection with you. And I think that's a hard thing to pull off. So definitely at this point in our business, we try to sit down with somebody at a coffee shop, or even do a one-on-one over the phone with them to get them their first exposure. And then we always want to leave them with the next exposure if they are up in the air on the business. So we look to leave them with the magazine and schedule follow-up from there, or even plug them into the hotel presentation.
And just to clarify, when you say you over the phone, you're talking about actually setting up an appointment to show it with them, where they can be in front of a computer and you're calling them and essentially watching it at the same time?
Absolutely. Yep.
That's all. Thanks for being here.
Mark, you're muted.
I muted myself. I just asked you the best question ever.
Darn it.
All right, I'll start over again. Let me touch on that. So, you know, a lot of times people leave out one of the key ingredients, and that is the three-way call. And so, you know, whether you're at an in-home or you're, you know, at a live event, tell me how you incorporate your three-way call.
Yeah, it used to be clunky. It used to be awkward, and I didn't always make it happen because, you know, you chicken out, or you just didn't feel like they wanted to get on the phone with somebody, and you're tripping over your words, and, you know, it just didn't work. But here's what I do now. When I sit down with somebody in a one-on-one setting, for example, or even if it's over the phone, I do the same thing, because they're wondering what it is that you're going to show them. So I just lay it out there. I'll say, hey, Mark, in the next 20 minutes, here's what I want to accomplish. I want to tell you real quick why I started my business, and I'm going to show you 2 5-minute videos. One explains what we do, the other how we get paid. And then after that, I'm going to call my mentor in the business. They've got a great story to tell, and they can answer any questions that you might have. Now, you agree we can get that done in about 20 minutes? So then it's easy. You know, I'll lead into my why, play the 2 videos, and then after that, I'll say, does that make sense, as I'm dialing the phone, and introduce my leader that I'm going to get them on the phone with. So there's no asking permission. Hey, Mark, do you mind if I call somebody? What's Mark going to say? He's going to say, no, I don't need to talk to anybody. I don't want to talk to anybody. So if I lay it out beforehand, step by step, what's going to happen, I don't get the objection. Hey, I don't want to talk to anybody. I get them on the phone with the leader 100% of the time.
So, what do you think the purpose of it is? I mean, why do we even bother with it?
Because the people that you sit down with know you as however they know you. My prospects know me as the policeman. They don't know me as an energy expert. And if I start asking questions about gas and electricity and how that all works, they're not going to have a whole lot of belief in what I have to tell them. Or they're going to think, that's great that you know all that information, Carter, but I'm just learning this, and there's no way I could possibly answer all those questions, so I don't think I'm ready yet. That's what's going to go through their head, one or the other.
And then whenever you're looking for somebody to do the three-way call with you, does it have to be somebody who's a yellow jacket, or do they have to be on your team, or how do you choose the person to do the call for you?
I try to find a fit with the person, because of what I do for a living. I've shown a number of policemen, so I try to have Tim Mullinger, a fellow policeman, do the three-way call for me. Or if I know somebody is into dogs, I'll have Kim Mason or Jason Morrell do the three-way call. A school teacher, I'll have a school teacher that's in our business do the three-way call. If you can draw a connection with the prospect in the three-way, it's huge, because they can speak the same language to each other. They've had the same experiences in life probably, and they can relate to each other.
Yeah, I think that's crucial. You hit the nail on the head with that one, because another thing too is it doesn't have to be somebody on your team. I think you were talking about Tim, but I'm sure you use Kirk too.
I have, yep, absolutely. I've shown some firefighters, or even blue collar guys. Kirk's got a lot of blue collar in his background. He's been a roofer and a truck driver, and if I'm showing a blue collar person, Kirk's one of the first people I ask.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Let's see, anybody else out there? Let me see here. All right, Larry V. I'll go Larry real quick. Go ahead, Larry.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for coming on, Carter. Appreciate it. One of the questions I had, just maybe you could speak about your wife and her interest in the business. Since I started, my wife supports me, but she's not active. And just wondering if you had where she was at. You said she had some network marketing in her past, and just maybe explain a little bit about how you guys team up, or how you kind of handle it together.
Well, I'm lucky that she was supportive. I came home after I signed up, and I kind of told her what I did, but I wanted her blessing. So what I did was had her go to the weekly presentation the following Monday. And she came home all jazzed up and said, yeah, let's do this. And so she gave her blessing from the get-go. And because she was with Doreen so much, Doreen hadn't been even in kindergarten yet, she didn't devote the time to the business that I did. But now that Doreen's in school and Josie has her days free, she does work the business more now than she did then. So it's been kind of a team effort all along, but a little more weighted in my favor in terms of the amount of work that's put into it.
All right, thank you.
But if your wife is not on board, she will be when she sees the checks coming in.
Yeah, it's not she's not on board. We have our 89-year-old grandmother living with us. That's her mother, and they're just spending a lot of time together, and so she's supportive of me going out and doing it. No problem there. The other part, which you kind of handled tonight about being busy, I own my own refrigeration, heating, cooling business with a bunch of trucks, a bunch of employees, and I find myself very busy. Certain times of the year, I find a little freedom, and that's when I seem to be doing a lot of my one-on-ones, like this time of year. And so I'm trying to figure out, okay, when the cooling season hits right around April, May, how do I still devote some time to Ambit? Not that I ever gave up. I definitely have it in my heart, and I work it and I think about it daily, on a daily basis. Obviously, this other business, 29 years, it's my bread and butter, and I got my kids are all involved, and it's not a point of transition yet. But I'm just trying to figure out. I remember I went to Power Trip last year, and when I come back, I'm there. I got to take a day off and do Ambit and just like take a day off of my business. And I just couldn't do it. So I'm still trying to figure that part out, I guess.
Well, Ambit is part-time for most of us, and it's not meant to be a full-time job anyway. Even the people that are working this quote-unquote full-time, they're not devoting 40 hours a week at it in all likelihood, right? So just find that spare time when you can in your day to ask a couple people to take a look and make the goal of showing the plan, 10 to 20 times a month on an average month. And if you do that, you'll see some serious momentum build in your business.
Okay. Thank you. That's kind of where Mark and I've been talking. We talk pretty regularly, and I'm glad to have him as my sponsor. And
Make that a goal. Make that a goal every month. So you should write that down. Mm-hmm. So it's in your face. So you see that every day. So this month, my goal is to show the plan at least 10 to 20 times a month and make that your goal each and every month. And
right.
You'll see some serious growth if you can stick to that.
Appreciate that.
There comes some freedom in it too, because just want to touch on that because Larry, when I mean Carter, you can jump in on this too, but what woke me up is that our job is not to sell people on Ambit; it's just to show them the plan, and it does not make a bit of difference whether they join or not. Our job is just to show the plan, and so I know that's been liberating for me here in Florida because I can show that we've showed the plan 4 times last week. And, there's no pressure because if they don't join, you're living in Florida, but we show people in Canada and people from all these different places. And so the pressure comes off, and then the better you get at it, the more you're going to want to do it. So I'm sure that Carter kind of came to that same realization at some point, right? So was I muted?
Nope, you're good.
All right, let's get. I want to go to Justin Steger here real quick because
okay.
You actually typed in a question. Go ahead and ask it. I like it.
All right, so Carter, my name's Justin. I'm an RC. I've been in for about a little over 3 years. I follow the system, invite, presentation, validation, 3-way call, $10 trainings, all the events. I just can't find the duplication that is so powerful. I probably sponsored 25 personally, and I had a team of about 45 between myself and Jason Milliken. And I just, I've seen other people that have sponsored like 3, and they have a team of like 700. So is that common, or where do you see that, other consultants?
Those people had themselves a lottery ticket. My sponsor sponsored 3, and he's got over 1,800 people in his business. He didn't really do anything special except for show it to the right person early on. So it's just a numbers game. Just keep showing the plan. I know it's probably not what you want to hear, but just keep showing the plan. You'll find somebody in there that wants it worse than you do. That's the type of person you're looking for. And try to plug your new consultant into the next big event. We got Brian McClure coming in April to Pittsburgh. That's something we're looking to plug our new consultants into. You've got to get them somehow connected to the business so they can see how big it is. Does that make sense?
It does.
You'll find somebody. It's a law of large numbers, and you'll find somebody in there that wants it like you did or worse than you did.
I just didn't know if that was the norm or if I was doing something wrong or.
And I'm going to jump into this one with you too, Carter. One thing I've seen that's been successful, Justin, for Christina and I, and I'm sure Carter has some situations like this too, but what we like to do is we like to get involved with people that we sponsor. And so, you've put 25 people in the business, and what Carter said is, you got to find their why, and you got to figure out what it is. And so then you start to dig into the team. And I'll just give you a real quick story. In our business, we sponsored a doctor, Chuck Thurston, and he's from Chillicothe, Ohio, great guy. And what we did is we literally sat in his house, and we went through his list, and we started calling people. And we ended up getting 3 consultants who signed right away. And so Cheryl Williams, who's on here tonight, Rich Lockwood, and then a guy named Sandra up in Boston. And out of those 3, I think there's close to 100 consultants now. It wasn't him personally doing it. We took an interest in his business almost more than he did. And then when Cheryl started to grow, we started working with her directly, and then even with her team. And so I was running out to Springfield, Ohio, and doing in-homes for, people on 2, 3, 4, 5 levels below this guy. I think his business goes 7 or 8 levels now. We just took interest in his team. So what I would do if I was you is go rewind the clock and go back through your live consultants, because a lot of them are probably dead by now, and go back to anybody who's got a pulse and just ask them, just say, look, I just want to reiterate, why did you get in this business? Where are you struggling, and what can I do to help? And can you give me 3 names we can call right now? And then start driving depth. I mean, even another example, it was the last person that I personally sponsored in, was a guy named Mercy, who I met through driving Uber in Pittsburgh. And he's, I think, 1 personal away from Turner Regional already. And so got all the customers and all that stuff. And the same thing, we were doing in-homes not just for him, but for his sister. And I'm personally working with his uncles and everybody else. So sometimes you just got to drive in the depth, I don't know if that'll help you or not.
Thank you.
You got it, buddy. You got it. All right, so I'm going to open up for one more question, because I want to get Carter off here. I don't want to keep you on here all night, so let me just go back to this view. I think that I saw here, Alvin. Let's do Alvin. Go ahead, Alvin.
Yeah, hi, how you doing? My name is Alvin. I'm very new in the business. I was just wondering how I can get Carter's phone number for future reference. I feel pretty much on where he was when he got started. So he kind of inspired me a little bit more. So I wondered if there was a way I can get in touch with him as an upline as well, or is that something that can be done?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark, is he in your business, or?
You know what, Alvin? He's in Justin's business.
Okay.
Yes.
So you can either send me a text or whatever, and or have Justin, and I'll send you Carter's. If you're cool with that, Carter, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
Yeah. One thing that you got to understand, Alvin, is that every one of us is available.
Okay. Good.
Right.
Yeah. Justin did tell me that. So I was just trying to get more numbers. Okay. I got you.
Yeah, we're all available. The fact is, if you go to Power Trip, Brian McClure gives out his phone number at Power Trip. Does he still do that? I think he does.
Yep.
Yeah, I called him one time. I needed a close, but he was running into an airport, and he couldn't do it. But he was willing to do it, thank God. All right, well, that was it for tonight, guys. It's now 10:30. Carter, I really appreciate you coming on tonight. This will be posted up on my YouTube channel. It usually takes a couple weeks for me to get them on there, but just keep an eye out on my page. Last week we had Frank Schmeling on, and so we're going to be, if I haven't already posted that one, I don't know if I did or not, but if I haven't, that's going to be coming up. We also have one from Ray Monty that's going to be getting posted. And here's some people that we've been talking to for the future. Coach Alan Johnson, we're trying to nail him down for a date. Richard and Mary Amwedo, or we're going to try to get them on here as well. If there's anybody that you want to hear from, send me a text. My number is, we've got a pen. Alvin, you can write it down. My number is 724-413. So it's 724-413-5224. Shoot me a text, and for somebody you want to see on the calls, and also if you want to send me a text, I'll send you over Carter's info. But anyways, that's going to be it for tonight. Carter, as we're leaving, is there any parting nuggets, thoughts, words of wisdom that you want to leave us with tonight?
Just keep the faith. What we have here is the golden egg. It's been proven time and time and again that it's changing people's lives. So just keep the faith. If you're in that state of frustration, just try to realize that if you keep pushing forth, keep that determination, keep moving forward, the brighter days are ahead. Awesome.
So here's to some bright days. I know it's bright down here in Tampa, Florida, 90 degrees, and I'm sure it's bright in Turks and Caicos as well. But thanks again for coming on, guys, and we'll see you next week. Oh yeah, announcement: there will not be a Zoom tomorrow night at. I normally do 7:30 tomorrow night. I'm not going to be doing it. I promised my wife I would take her out for a date night, so it just happened to fall on tomorrow night. Sorry about that, but we'll resume next week. So see you next week at 9:30 Wednesday night.
No, Mark, it's only a real date if you have a babysitter.
We do. That's why I'm not going to be on Zoom. Our friend actually called and said, "Hey, do you want us?" He said, "Look, we'll watch Gianni on Thursday if you watch our son Max on Friday." And I was like,